a month devoted to fasting, generosity, and faith. To talk about the history and meaning of the Islamic holiday Ramadan, I am joined by Sel Buyuksarac, teacher, engineer, and community leader. Sel, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you being here.
JAIDA Ozkalay, I think I've got it right, middle school math teacher and Interfaith volunteer.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Gahn Ibraev, real estate entrepreneur and communications facilitator. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Gahn, I understand you speak about a dozen languages. I want to get to that in a minute. And we hope to be joined in just a few minutes by Leyla Dogan. She's a 15-year-old 10th grader in town. And to our listeners, we welcome your questions about the significance and the history of Ramadan. You can reach out at 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org, and you can touch base via social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or X. Sel, as I mentioned in the intro, about 700 Muslims live in Florida, making the state home to the second largest Muslim population in the United States. How does the Northeast Florida community fit into that overall picture in terms of how many people live here, how many people come together to celebrate Ramadan?
I mean, most of the Muslims celebrate the Ramadan, and they invite all the time the people, their friends home, and they celebrate together, because Ramadan is not just the fasting, understanding, and the bringing people together, building bridge between the communities and the neighbors. So many people actually get seriously and try to understand each other. I don't know how others celebrate, but I celebrate with my community. Since 2007, I try to invite every person I know, and some people I don't know, and they bring people to my home and the different places, and I celebrate with them, because bringing love in a community is one of the fundamental of the Ramadan.
So let's talk a little bit about what the holiday is, because a lot of people are familiar, Sel, with the fasting component,
yes.
And that's perhaps one of the more obvious elements of it, but it involves a lot of introspection. It involves a lot of acts of generosity, gifts. Talk about all those other elements.
Yeah, most of the time people think that the Ramadan is not eating, just not drinking, and they may be suffering. That's one. It is not that. It is actually getting back to your origin like a soul, and getting more humble, getting more vulnerable, and giving back the community, sharing, and getting actually be thankful, understanding the gratitude, and it is being better human beings.
Yeah. JAIDA, talk about that, the act of sacrifice, the act of giving up things that might bring you pleasure, whether it's food or drink during those periods, that during the day. How does that advance your effort to gain self-knowledge, or to be more introspective, or to be more communicated with your faith?
For me, not eating, not drinking water, of course, is less of energy. But that for me, it's a reflection of how food is a blessing. So I understand when I'm hungry or when I'm thirsty, I understand there's something bigger than me, and that reflects how weak I am, so how needy I am. So it makes me actually softer people. Like, it makes me more merciful for those who's in need, and I can understand the hunger better during that stage. As Mr. Sal said, it's not about just eating, it's about to do better. So for during Ramadan, I'm just trying to do better for every single aspect of my life.
And for people who aren't familiar with the rituals around Ramadan, the fasting is a tribute, kind of a gratitude to God. And the belief is that by restricting the body's appetites during the daylight hours, you can kind of rejuvenate your spirituality and cultivate a greater devotion to God. Gahn, you are a communications expert, and I believe, as I alluded to, you're fluent in Arabic, Russian, Turkish, Kyrgyz, English. Am I missing any?
No, you got it right. I mean, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I say a lot of my friends always ask me, how do you speak so many languages? And I always say, I was exposed to those languages. And when you're exposed to languages, you have to figure out how to speak and communicate. So,
How were you exposed to all those languages?
well, I was born in Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia, so we used to be a former Soviet Union country. So speaking Kyrgyz home and speaking Russian in my official business dealings and government dealings. So we were exposed to Russian and academia and everything. Medicine was everything in Russian. So I grew up speaking two languages. Then I went to Turkish high school back home, and they were providing us with outstanding foreign language classes. English, I started speaking English when I was 9, 10 years old. Then Turkish, and then I went to study in Cairo, Egypt. And again, this was a new beginning for me, 17 years old, don't know anything about Arabic. I had to figure out how to communicate on the street and the campus classes. And I believe it's a blessing. Well, when it comes to the Ramadan, if you allow me, do you want me to get
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So Ramadan is a major foundational act of worship. I'm not going to go into the Islam 101, but it's one of the basic principles of Islam. We have 5 principles, which is believe in God, praying 5 times a day, fasting during the month of Ramadan, giving charity, and do the pilgrimage to Mecca, Hajj. And the God, since He created the humanity, He knows the humans, what they need, what they're weak at. So as Sel and Jayda pointed out during the Ramadan, we kind of put through this forceful fasting for people who can afford to fast. Obviously, there's people who are expelled from fasting, who are pregnant and nurturing and old. So there's no suffering, but there's a tasteful blessing of God, because He knows our nature, He knows the human nature, and we have to work on ourselves to self-discipline our appetites in food and in our sexual desires and so forth, because fasting is down to dusk. You are not only fasting, abstaining from food and drinking, but you're also abstaining from anything that leads you away from God consciousness.
So smoking, it's a period of celibacy. All of that is prohibited during those hours.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about the history and the significance of Ramadan, and you're welcome to join our conversation this morning. You can call 904-549-2937 or email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can also reach out on social media. I want to bring in Leyla Dogan. Welcome to the program. You're 15 years old, and I understand you've been in the United States for 7 years.
Yeah.
So there is a kind of lower limit on fasting. I believe young children aren't required to fast. So when did you begin personally that observance during Ramadan?
I began when I was like around 9 years old. I mean, at first, it really depends on how well you can take it. Some kids start at an older age if like their body can't take fasting for long hours. But if you can't, then there is like half fasting where they fast from the morning to lunch or from lunch until Iftar, which is after you can break your fast.
Iftar is the meal kind of after sunset. Where
Yeah.
You can, And so was it difficult for you to accommodate, the principles and the practices of the holiday?
I mean, at first, because you're like really not used to not eating for such long hours and all that. But when you get your body used to it, like fasting slowly, like getting into it, then you get used to it and it's not as hard as it was when you first started.
Are there any tips or tricks that you've learned or that people shared with you kind of to prepare you?
I mean, sahur, it's when you eat before you have to start your fast before sunrise. It keeps you hydrated, and if you eat a good meal, like a healthy meal, then you're not really hungry throughout the day.
That's sohor, or is it? I've heard it pronounced a few different ways.
Yeah, sahur.
Sohor.
Yes.
And so that's the meal before sunrise. And so that's kind of your opportunity, I guess, to fuel up and
Yeah.
get ready for the rest of the day. And so what is it that you enjoy or appreciate about the observance?
I mean, it really brings a whole community of Muslims together, and you guys are all sharing that 1 month of when everyone's not everyone's not eating, they're all fasting. Everybody's focusing more on their religious activities and less on like outdoorly or other worldly stuff.
Hmm. And Sel, how does the community come together during that period? Talk a little bit about the, when the fast is broken and then, sort of towards the end of the observance, how the community comes together.
As you mentioned, I am an educator because I like to bring people together and to learn from each other. Most of the time we put the labels and they discriminate or to put the different bubbles each other because we don't know each other, right? And after 2001, the Muslim community get a lot of misunderstanding and maybe labeling. 2006, I moved here 2002, and since that time I tried to invite the Ramadan dinners to my house. But starting 2007, intentionally I bring many people. This is not the only learning about the Ramadan. At the same time, I'm learning from my friends too, because the learning should be like a communication and understanding to other sides too, just not one side. I am using the Ramadan to just using that and celebrating that month to bring people together because we need more than ever understanding each other and know each other. When we know each other, actually we are understanding that we have so much common things than the differences. And when we look at, we are all human. We like eating food. We love to joking and the laughing, and sometimes we're sharing the stories. We understanding that everybody has a story and everybody is a human, and we have so much common.
And so do you encourage people, you say friends, outside the faith to join in?
Of course. Actually, if you look at the Islam, the Prophet Muhammad suggested that share your breaking fast with your neighbors. Doesn't say that you're Muslim, Christian, or the Jewish, or anybody. Doesn't put any label, just your neighbors. In Jacksonville, we are all neighbors, right? So I invite everybody. Sometimes, the unfaith, different faiths, Muslim, Christian, and the Jewish, so many people came together. And it doesn't matter what is your party relations or what is your ideas. Doesn't matter. As a human, just come and join to us.
Mm-hmm. And Jada, I know that WJCT is sponsoring an event next week that is sort of aimed at bringing the community together. There's going to be a fast breaking on Tuesday, I believe. And so who do you encourage to come to an event like that? And what do you think they might gain from it?
I would like to invite my colleagues first in school, the people around me, the friends. As Mr. Sal said, when we have a dinner, there's a famous saying that I love so much. If you share a meal together, you'll never be a stranger forever. So I love that quote. This is what I'm trying to implement in my life. So if you have a dinner, Iftar dinner, or whatever dinner it is, it's not about Ramadan. I highly encourage everyone to go together because I know dinner tables have a effect on people, bring the togetherness and support each other. It's about solidarity. So I really would like to share a meal with the people so we cannot be strangers together.
And do you encourage them as well to participate in the fasting elements, or is it just a dinner that you invite them to?
No, just a dinner. No, just a dinner.
Khan, what are your thoughts about having people, outside the faith come and participate in the meal and learn a little bit about the history of the event?
Absolutely. I mean, like Sel said, I have to say that I'm very grateful. We have leaders like Sel and many other leaders here in the community that, as I told earlier before the show, Sel has become a Ramadan phenomenon in Jacksonville.
A Ramadan phenomenon.
By his dinners, bringing people together. So this aspect, especially after 9/11, after all the wars happening in the world, all this stereotype and Islamophobia is on the rise, as well as many other anti-Semitism, racism, all sorts of racism are happening in the country. We cannot, actually I have to say, I never felt this vulnerable as an American Muslim ever, as of now. So events like this, Ramadan events, Ramadan iftars are incredibly important to bring people together, to just remind that we all same humans, we have same struggles, and the food has a great force bringing people together. As you know, I used to watch this Anthony Bourdain show. He was traveling around the world. Incredible example of just over the food table, you just realize we're same human beings. We have same struggles. Let's just talk about them, right? In a good civil way. So the Ramadan iftars are incredibly important in bringing people together. And I have to say, I'm so grateful Jacksonville has been really, really good about that. That a lot of the community leaders are joining this kind of events. Vice versa. Not only non-Muslims come to Muslims, and Muslims going to non-Muslims. So it's important that we come together and say, hey, we have to realize, like Sel said, we have more commonalities than the differences. It's easy to point out all the differences than focusing on our commonalities. So that being said, I just want to bring up one important fact that unfortunately we are living a very difficult times right now. The war in Gaza, the war in Palestine, and I just cannot afford myself not to talk about this, if you allow me, because while you're fasting, people realize that indeed you are weak and you are powerless, and without food and drink, you can only function as much. So starvation, Holocaust, the Bosnian War, right now starvation in Gaza. I just feel very, very sad about those people. And during Ramadan, I encourage everyone to also think about those underprivileged people who don't have basic needs. And not only about the people who are going through the war, but people in our own country. We have poverty and starvation here in the United States.
Sel, talk a little bit about that. I mean, there is an entire population of people, as Khan says, that are going to be moving into the month of Ramadan very much on the brink of starvation and, a tremendous loss of life. What is your sense of how that observance will happen, if at all, in Gaza?
Of course, as Khan said, as a human, I don't want to see any person, whatever their faith or the background, the dying or the suffering. As a human, can you think about anything else? You see that the suffering, it touched my heart, and not like it is hard to express when you see the people suffering. So as Khan said, I'm asking who's going to listen the world, but as a human, we should maybe at least we can pray bring peace together and to stop fighting, and the innocent people should not die anymore. Ramadan actually bringing us to understanding that suffering people too, because you think that we are living United States, whatever we need, everything is like just the fingerprints, like a finger touch. You order this today, tonight, you can receive it. And we have so much abundance, right? But we should try to understand who is needy. And I think Ramadan brings me more like being human, better human, and understanding what people suffer. And I am not just the person very strong. Actually, I am also vulnerable, and I have the weakness too. And they make me the better human. As being better human, I think we should focus more the humanity and the helping each other.
Leyla, I want to ask her, does this holiday that's coming up feel any different for you given what's going on in the world?
You really get to see how it is for people that usually don't even get food. Like in Gaza, we're going into Ramadan and they're going to be fasting too, but they don't really get the opportunity to eat before their fast like we do, or open their fast because they can't find the resources. For me, you get to really see what it's like, as he said, being weak and vulnerable because you don't have the energy, you don't get to eat food. But you can't really imagine what it's like for them when they don't even get food to open their fast.
Mm-hmm. And Jada, does this holiday feel different to you for those same reasons? I'm just curious how you approach it, given all that's going on.
It affected me deeply first. I know everybody said like we understand them very well, but understanding them doesn't help them. So as one of the pillar of Islam is giving zakat, which is a donation. So during the month of Ramadan, we give more donations. So this is, I know you asked Mr. Sel about how that affect those people, right? So during Ramadan, since we are trying to be better spiritually, so we are trying to perform our pillars more deeply, which is one of the things is giving donations. So giving, sharing, it's actually mandatory for Muslims. You have to share some amount of, like certain amount of your donation to the people in need. So during Ramadan, we give more donations. So like thinking about the people who are in need, I'm being more aware, like I'm trying to be more awareness in my school also. So I know I have some students that are in need. I know they're sometimes don't have a breakfast. They come to school without having breakfast. I know who they are. So some of them is Muslim, some of them not. Doesn't matter. But during this month, I'm trying to give more to them. So I let them rest in my room during Ramadan. So they are fasting. So it's all about bringing awareness and understanding and also taking an action, because without an action, empathy doesn't work, actually, in my opinion.
Khan, I want to ask you about culturally. It's interesting. She talks about the donation that's required. There's actually like a calculator online that you can go and see how much you owe. You plug in your income and your assets. It's not unlike tithing in certain religions. The fast is similar to Lent and, kind of Catholic and Christianity. And it's sort of interesting, I think, with your very multicultural background, there's so many similarities in the world of religion in terms of the practices, the observances, and the priorities.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. I actually was going to mention that part, that the Quran, the Holy Book, mentions that the verse about the fasting, that God says, we have prescribed fasting upon you as we have prescribed people before you, the people of book, which is Jews and Christians. So like you said, there's fasting in other monotheistic religions as well. And so the month of Ramadan fasting, kind of different from that fasting, is it's the whole lunar month. So Islamic calendar goes based on the lunar calendar, as you know, 29, sometimes 30 days. So that is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. And God wants, as I said earlier, for those who are not expelled and, don't have a legal excuse and healthy, then they have to fast. But those who are pregnant, nurturing, ill, and elderly, they are not allowed to fast. So it's the mercy from God. And the way that Ramadan goes the whole month, to pick up a habit, usually we usually say 30 to 40 days to pick up certain habits. So during this Ramadan, like you said, the spiritual rejuvenation, so-called the spiritual tune-up, after end of the Ramadan, we actually, the Eid celebration is the celebration of that we hopefully recognize that we have been given up so many things for God. We have been, like Mark Twain said, there's 2 important days in your life. The first one is when you are born, and the second when you figure out why. So Ramadan has a great significance in figuring out why we are here. So like Sel and Jada and Leyla said, that it's all about coming back to your essence, to your roots, to yourself, to the book of God, and do a lot of self-reflection, do a lot of spiritual examining yourself and questioning yourself. What am I doing wrong? What I have to improve, and so forth. So, and we do a lot of similar day fastings, like Jews have the day of the Moses was saved. They fast at the same time when we fast as well. So Lent is also very sort of a similar fasting too. So we have this the concept of fasting, but as I said, Ramadan is a little bit different in the sense that it's the whole month, and end of the month, hopefully we believe that God forgives our sins, and we celebrate that that God has forgiven us. That's the meaning of the celebration.
And so there is actually at the end of Ramadan something called, I think it's Laylat al-Qadr. Is that kind of?
This is during the Ramadan.
Okay, so it's like maybe the last days or the
Yes.
last several days?
Yes, between the last 10 nights.
Something called a night of power. Explain what that is. What's the significance?
Sure. It's actually one of the greatest nights for Muslims that we celebrate the whole night. Ramadan is we already talked about it. But the Laylatul Qadr is the night that we believe that the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So we kind of celebrate that night, the significance of this month, of this night, that the final words of God, the whole book was being revealed to Prophet Muhammad, and we try to do extra worshiping them that night specifically, extra worship at the mosque, extra donations, like Jada said. Just think of it like this: in the United States, we have the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and people are just naturally very mellow this time, right? People are very friendly. People are very just in a holiday spirit. So imagine this happening for whole 30 days. And like I said, that Laylatul Qadr probably is the peak of those feelings. You know, they are very spiritual. You have done a lot of self-reflection, and you just want to ask forgiveness from God, purify your soul, and do a lot of compassion and sympathy to the people who are underprivileged. So that's why our community dinners are extremely important, that we say, hey, we want to share this happiness with you. It's a happiness for us.
Mm-hmm.
We celebrate this happiness, and we want to share this happiness with everyone.
We have a comment from Jimmy Midyet. He's a local attorney and human rights activist. On X, he says, a word of deep appreciation for Sel, who is also a dedicated public servant as a member of the Jacksonville Human Rights Commission. So thank you for your work on that. And Susan from St. Augustine emailed, how did Ramadan start? What is its origin? I believe, Khan, you just sort of touched a little bit on that.
So the fasting before the Ramadan was obligatory on Muslims. There was particular fasting, especially on those special nights. Like I said, the Jews fast during when Moses, peace be upon him, was saved from Pharaoh. So they celebrate that day and they fast. So we used to fast as well. So there were certain days, but not the whole month. So after, I believe, several years after his prophethood, God revealed this verses saying that Muslims have to fast during the Ramadan, the whole month. So this was the origin, and since then, Muslims have to fast the whole lunar calendar for the 29 or 30 days.
Leyla, I want to ask, just at school, are there any accommodations made during that period for you? Obviously, you said sometimes you can be low energy.
At school, there's not really, at least at my school right now, most people aren't Muslim. It's mainly Christian, because I go to public school. And, like, they have special rooms open for you in case you want to go and rest at least during lunch. Because, like, when everyone else is eating and drinking, you feel tempted, and, like, it makes it kind of harder. So I like to go to the library. I just like to, like, sit there until lunch ends. And because if you're sitting in lunch and you're watching all these other kids eat, it's really hard. And a lot of people feel tempted. It makes their fasting way harder. They have certain rooms open for my school. It's the library, my bad. So I just like to go sit there, read a book, or work on my homework during lunch.
Sel, I'll ask you, so this event that's coming up, it's actually on Wednesday, March 13th at 6 o'clock. And it is a fast breaking that's going to be, held here at WJCT Studios. And there are tickets available. What do you think people could expect to encounter if they come?
They will expect the same time of the experience and the understanding Ramadan. Also, we're going to have a chat and the sharing our stories and getting to know each other better, because this is our second time actually we are doing. Last year we did it and over 100 people came. The food will be so delicious. We will have a great desserts too. All the food will be from the sponsor of the Atlantic Institute and the homemade foods.
Awesome.
And last year people maybe second or the third plate even take it. They were so enjoy. It will start with the small conversation on the stage with me and the moderator. After that, we're going back to tables and we will talk about our communities, what we can do as a small table, and everybody will share and what is their gratitude about it. After that finish, maybe we will share that ideas to our communities and we will learn from each other. And after that, we're going to experience the prayers and how to pray Muslims, because many people doesn't know we are praying 5 times and what we do. So they will learn a little bit about that, and we will have a break in fast and the eating and enjoying the day.
Well,
It will have fun and the learning experience and connecting. Last year, so many people meet the new people in the table, and so many people is still thanking me and sending me emails that thank you for this event, because I met a stranger, become a new friend, and we are
That's
continuously
terrific. Well, it sounds like a great event. Sel, Jada, Khan, Leyla, thank you all so much for being here and for a great conversation about Ramadan. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Very much.